Deliver Us Mars is a cheesy, cringe-inducing space adventure that will leave you rolling up with laughter. But alas, this is not a comedy, which is frustrating because there are glimpses of genuine brilliance in here, with some great cinematography, an epic soundtrack, and a story full of mystery that propels you forward. But come the end, you're going to be pained that you spent $30 of your hard-earned cash on this rather mediocre soap opera. So buckle into your spacesuits and let's have a chat. Welcome back, my lovelies, and today we are doing a review on Deliver Us Mars. Now, in all of Reggie's reviews, I do my best to avoid spoilers, but this game very much is 100% story-driven with zero gameplay. More on that later. And so it's sort of impossible to not discuss some of that in here. So avoid this review if you wish to avoid those spoilers. But what I will say is that I'm going to admit any of the major drama that's on offer. So then, Deliver Us Mars is full of juxtapositions. Take this opening scene here, where you are presented as little Kathy and are called Moon Bear, constantly by your creepy dad.
A moon bear for my moon bear. Moon bear. I need your help, moon bear. We've got to hurry, moon bear. They're probably looking for us now. Going to Outward, moon bear. Together. Get to the door, moon bear.
Jesus Christ. And he's creepy because something doesn't quite look right about his face. So it turns out creepy dad is some space guru played Deliver Us the Moon to find out more on his story, and here you discover his goal is to make you his little space apprentice. It all sounds a bit Gary Glitter right now, but just bear with me for a moment. So you'll watch the story unfold as Daddy, who clearly loves his moon bear and would never let harm come to her, does just that. We'll get ready for the laughter, boys and girls. You see, in this scene, we see Moon Bear, a child, let's not forget, being left to run for herself as creepy Daddy steams ahead without once glancing back and effectively leaves her to fend for herself as shit is going down. Look at him go, people, he don't give a about you. And what about this scene here, where he gives his little Moon Bear adult-sized mountain axes for her to experiment with as he off behind the shed to talk to his trouble and strife. And how about this scene as you traverse underwater into a presumed crashed spaceship where he leaves you to fend your own devices and get yourself trapped as he is outside frolicking about like the bumbling fool that he is. Dad of the year, boys and girls. And this is in the first few hours, by the way, of playing it, and so it's hard to take this game seriously because the character building, it just isn't there for Reggie, which is a shame because the premise of the story isn't too shabby at all. So Earth finds itself screwed, where global warming and years of abuse mean energy and resources are an all-time low. But fear not, because creepy dad and his team have found out that places like Mars has loads of resources and they can be transferred back to Earth by these massive energy beams that can save mankind. Interesting indeed, but what is curious is that suddenly these signals have cut short and your job is to work out why, and thus ensues a mystery style game that leaves you wanting to know what happened, even though it very much is a cringe fest throughout. Now, Reggie is from the land of Blighty, and quite proud I am too. Let me tell you something, it doesn't feel right though that all the major characters in this game have accents from what I presume to be Middlesex, England.
What?
Yet they do appear to live in America based on the environment and the fact there is a rip-off NASA-esque spaceport to hand, complete with the logo rip-off. Could we not find American actors for the role of the British? Or could we not find British actors who could do a solid job with the interpretations? It just feels off seeing these English posh twats donning spacesuits, living in America, all whilst under the age of what looks to be 30 as they try and save the planet. Nothing here feels as it should, and humankind hates these British. They see it as a waste of resource to send space people to space to save the planet, and that's what we are told by the British contingent in this scene, but it really isn't fleshed out as to why, and you feel there are more times when they could really deviate to show the importance of your role. In my mind, if it saves mankind, you put every bloody resource you have as a nation into it. Even Greta Thunberg would agree. You are literally saving the planet here. In fact, nothing is really fleshed out in Deliver Us Mars, in particular the gameplay. I say gameplay, but that would be an insult to the Cockney gamer gang. You know, there is a concept that if you put a monkey in front of a typewriter, after a couple of thousand years, it will randomly type out the full works of Shakespeare. Well, the same can be said for Deliver Us Mars, but instead, a monkey could probably get through the game in mere hours. What these so-called puzzle aspects ask you to do is press buttons, but it tells you what to press, in what order, and where you need to look to press them. At most, you might have to point a laser beam at a location to open a door or cut some metal with your laser beam on your arm, but that's literally it, kids. It's about as inventive as an inflatable dartboard, and the animations are off too, as your character in her lanky, awkward body can appear to jump like Michael Jordan, and gravity doesn't appear to affect her on Earth as much as it does on Mars. The general movement lacks flow, and animations of spaceships also seem stiff. That's what she said. Here I am in this scene as Moonbear perving on my parents making out, but alas, their marital issues remain as the lips never quite meet. And I swear Moonbear needs an exorcist, where cutting to a new scene means you'll get a glimpse of her hair spitting out as if electrified. It's only small, but it can be jarring to look when scenes swap about. In fact, the little glitches and bugs just add to the embarrassment on display here, just like the god-awful fringe Moonbear has as both a child and as a young adult. Her dad might be an astrophysicist, but he can only afford to send her to Supercuts for her hairstyle. So all in all, you could throw a character, direct them on a linear path, press a few buttons, watch a multitude of cutscenes just to discover more of the story whilst watching a horror show of a mullet attack your eyes. So then we come on to the sound, and my god people, wow, you cannot tell me this game, with all of its crappy gameplay, has this epic soundtrack with great sound design. It's almost worth the price of admission alone. It's glorious stuff with musical strings coming in and out as you are presented magical visual moments like taking off into space. It's all very Interstellar/Gravity-esque, and the sound effects add a lot of richness to it too, where little beeps of machines play out or the roaring sound of rocket separation fill your eardrums with joy. It's kind of perfect and very much carries Deliver Us Mars from a very low score to the average score that it gets here. It helps build suspense and wonderment, which is such a juxtaposition to the cringe fest that is constantly on display. Honestly, play this with your porn headphones on and just enjoy the show. Graphically, it's a mixed bag. Sometimes I'm just smiling at the beauty on display here. Considering this is a small development team, I cannot deny they've done a really good job in places. The aforementioned opening scene as the sun litters the land, draping everything in a beautiful orange, is a delight and starts off on the right foot, or the rather brilliant spacewalk as you look down on Earth and see the ship before you. Cinematically, you can see what they're going for here, and at times they pick just the right camera angle to show you how mesmerising space can be, along with a nice dose of depth of field for cinematic effect. There is enough detail in the environment, even if some areas feel sparse, as seen in this drive through a slum, which I assume is Slough based on the native land of our actors. And that's sort of when it all hits you. Every now and again you'll get shockingly poor texture assets, like this crack in the glass of this bus that looks like someone drank a load of Sunny Delight and gobbed that thick spit on the window from afar.
But considering the amount of time.
In fact, this gobbing effect appears in a few places. Or look at these clouds as you penetrate through the atmosphere. Arguably the biggest spectacle in any space game is let down by the pure flatness and lifelessness of the asset that is akin to punching through the Truman Show dome. A lot of the assets feel visually low fidelity, and sadly they stand out when you come across them. This explosion, for example, looks rather shocking in 2023 when everything else looks pretty good around it. It's a shame then, because a bit longer in the oven and this game could have come across as highly polished. Now I'm running this on a 4080 which Johnny just acquired for me, and I've not experienced any crashes, and it's smooth for me on epic settings at 4K, but to be fair, that's a beastly card, so I can't really comment too much on how that plays out for more modest machines or indeed the consoles. So Deliver Us Mars is a strange game, my pedigree chums, because it sets out with great ambition, but perhaps those ambitions were just too high to meet. The premise is super interesting and the story in general is very solid, and one that will certainly captivate you as it unfolds to reveal its mystery. But the reality is this could easily have played out as a movie type game, more akin to The Quarry, Until Dawn, where you sort of know what you're going to get. There is no gameplay in Deliver Us Mars. Instead, it's a bunch of young, posh British twats trying to save mankind, where you have little influence on proceedings. The sound is glorious though, and it's a standout feature and easily makes up for so much of the mediocrity. It's a shame then, because deep within Deliver Us Mars, you know they wanted this to be the Neil Armstrong moment, but instead Deliver Us Mars is very much symbolic of Michael Collins, the poor sod no one actually remembers. Until next time, my lovelies, Reggie out.